Shalom, shalom. It's your brother Darnell
That's right. Yeah.
coming back again with another Think About It Thursday, man. Right, giving y'all something to think about. I saw something funny on social media, right? So, saw something funny on social media throughout the week, and I thought I would share it with you guys. It's going to be it's the video that I'm about to play. It's a funny video of Trevor. I don't know his last name, but you guys probably seen him before. And he gets a question from the audience, right? And he breaks it down. The title of this video is "The Thought of Restitution," or restoring back uh, something that you owe to somebody, right? Restitution. In other words, restoration. But without further ado, man, I am Brother Donal, and here at the Hopeful Elect, we give all honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we do so by way of His Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who we see as an instrument of salvation for the nation. We do these videos to make our calling and election sure. That one day we may hopefully be in that number of God's elect when He comes back to shed salvation on His people. Right. Without further ado, though, man, let's get into the video. We ain't gonna be before you guys too long, right? Before we get in the video, can you pull up Zechariah 11:5? I see you got something in the lobby too. Um,
No.
if you wanted to share that.
No.
But we'll start with Zechariah 11:5 before we get into the video. And I hope you guys' week is going by straight. Whichever week you're watching this video, you know what I'm saying? Whether you're in the middle of the week, beginning of the week, or at the end of the week, um, always remember to keep enduring, man. Life isn't gonna be perfect, but it is what you make it, and it starts in your mind, right? I've been thinking about doing a video about that as well. Um, just tailored to as a man thinketh, so is he, right? What you looking at?
Nothing. I got it.
Well, you got to pull it up in the blue letter. Man. Zechariah 11:5 is a classic. We use this one on the street, all the time. If you guys don't know it, go ahead and put it in your back pockets. It's a great verse that help explain the circumstances that we're in today, and it's a great verse for you to share with family and friends too. Shalom to the brother Yeshaya out there, right? But without further ado, man, if you can you read that for me, Zechariah 11:5.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 11 and verse 5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not.
That's perfect. That's perfect, man. I want to highlight the beginning and the end of this verse, right? It says, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, right? Meaning, and we know that, literally they slayed us. And we can, and we normally parallel this with like police brutality and stuff like that. And that holds true. But what also holds true is just in the concept of being slayed, we're talking about everything that transpired, right? Not just the killing, but the rape, robbery, and murder, right, of our people. And so they do all of that, rape, rob, and murder, and they hold themselves not guilty, saying that they didn't do anything wrong. Or what I spoke about with a brother today. A lot of times they'll say, let bygones be bygones, right? It wasn't that serious, it wasn't that deep. You know what I'm saying? It was a long time ago, right? They say They say these things, and all of that is to say, and all of that is to say that they're holding themselves not guilty, right? When they come up with all these excuses, they don't think what they did was actually bad. At the end of this verse, where it says, "And their own shepherds pity them not," right? This could be talking about our own shepherds as far as our leaders in our nation. But I'm gonna go out on a whim right here and say, let's pretend like these shepherds are those of the heathen, right? Those that were in authority over us. They pity us not. How do they pity us not? Because when stuff comes up to the forefront or to the light, when it comes to restoring back what was ours, or restitution, like the title of the video says, right? They have no sort of pity on us, right? Why do them niggas need reparations? They're doing okay. Look at LeBron James, right? And that's exactly the mindset of the average Edomite or the average American who's not a minority or marginalized person, right? So that's a great video, great verse to start off with, and I'm gonna play this short clip. It's about 3 minutes, but it's very good, right? What's that say? Oh, no justice, no peace. Gone, right? Let's see here. I'm gonna share my screen. Any of y'all brothers had anything to say before I play the video? Let's go ahead and jump into it. Fair use, right? Let me know if the sound is good.
You guys have any questions before we move on? Anything you want to chat about? No, we good? Yes, sir.
You think that reparations should just go to one group, or should it target people that are in the same kind of socioeconomic group? Because
that's an interesting question. What do you mean by that?
There are white people that have been disenfranchised recently.
Recently is the key. Recently is the key.
The country deindustrialized, right? So a lot of people in manufacturing jobs and stuff.
Right. But so to your question, I think
I want to stop it right there, man, and just point out, man, the caucasity, right? I think some brothers coined that phrase, but the caucasity of somebody to compare plights with the African American, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? Saying that they can lump themselves in what has been taking place in the past to our ancestors, right? To say that whatever they're going through now is equivalent to what we went through, right? The caucasity, right? And honestly, and we're gonna get into it, but honestly, man, it's you really have to have some type of audacity to ask that question with that level of confidence, right? Which I can believe you're in a room full of people and you think that's an intelligent question, right? But we're gonna get into that later on when we get into these scriptures, right?
I think you have to understand what the word reparations means first. So reparations, you are repairing something that you have broken. You are paying for something that you were supposed to pay for. I'm not saying that there aren't people living in America today who are suffering and are going through pain and strife because of what's happening when it comes to the machines taking jobs, factories becoming industrialized, etc. But reparations is a specific conversation about a specific time in America, and that is Black people were slaves. You know what I mean? I've even heard people say oh, but there were some of the Irish who were indentured. Yeah, slavery. Look at the numbers, look at the time, look at the level of work. You could not work toward your freedom.
And I just want to point something out too, man, when it comes to indentured servants, man, because that's the number one thing. When we're out there on the street teaching, man, that these curses didn't happen to no other people, the first thing people want to bring up is the Irish. Every single time, it never fails. They want to bring up the Irish and to say that we share the same plight, right? They bring up the Irish, saying that they were, and they say that a lot of times, if you don't be careful, they'll say that the Irish were slaves, right? But everybody knows that they were indentured servants. They were either working with a wage. It might be a small amount, but it was still a wage, or they were working towards paying off a debt or their freedom, right? The plights do not compare. And that's kind of what
a lot of times they were promised land too, because you got to understand they were not kidnapped. They wanted to come over here to the Americas to start a new life.
Right. So, they made that choice.
Right. So the difference being we didn't have a choice. We didn't ask to get on a cruise ship to come here.
Right. They were able to sit back and count the cost of what they were finna do.
A lot of
Right.
times they knew that they were going to be speaking different language. They knew that there was going to be hardships. They knew that they didn't know what the land looked like and what the climate was and all of that. They already knew that stuff.
Right. They kind of pulled kind of what Ruth went through. You know what I'm saying? And when I say that is because Ruth was put on game, hey, they might treat you differently once we get over here. You know, you might be discriminated against X, Y, and Z. She counted the cost and she said she wanted to go anyway. Right. She thought it would be best for her to go anyway. Same thing with them. You know, they thought it was best for them to come over here, whether they be scrutinized or discriminated against or any of that.
And don't get it twisted, man. For the average white American, this is probably, they'll say stuff like, this is the toughest America. This is the worst America has ever been. This is we got to make America great again. We're living check to check. We can't enjoy our money. We can't buy houses. We can't. But the thing about it is you can't compare your situation now because, I mean, till this day, broadly speaking, our people have been living that ever since.
That's our norm. The way you live now is our norm, and it has been our norm.
Yeah, where you can't find a job, where you're scared to quit your job because everybody's hiring, but nobody's hiring.
Right, living check to check.
You can't get anybody to take you serious. You don't know anybody to help you get into any positions. You don't have any good benefits. All that stuff is normal in our communities, right?
That's why. My bad. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we've been living in so long to where, you know, we're not really as impacted as a lot of Americans are mentally because this has kind of been a norm for us.
That's a great point, man. Because it's funny, man. Because he's saying all this stuff, and you can tell he has concern when he asked this question of, you know, I think, you know, regular Americans, not just of that demographic, deserve reparations. First of all, you don't even understand the word reparations like the man just said. But second of all, you're talking about what you're going through now. And it's like, man, as a black person, we really don't even, like the brother just said, we really don't even see a change in the economy like that for real, because this has been us. This has been our lives, right? What is that in Habakkuk? I might be wrong. It might not be in Habakkuk, or it might be in Lamentations, where it talks about we bring home a bag, we bring up our change, and it falls. You paraphrase it.
Haggai 1:6.
Haggai, right? Haggai talks about us going and bringing home wages to bring it in a bag full of holes and stuff like that, right? That's been our life, right? We don't see nothing different going on in the world, like the brother just mentioned. You know, it's still a normal world for us. We got to wake up and get it just like we always had. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a great point. But to clarify the person's question, he's asking, why can't white people and other nations get reparations as well? Because they are now going through the struggles of you know, the downfalls of a falling economy, and having new industrialized I guess industries take over their jobs and make it harder for them to secure jobs, so that he feels like they should deserve reparations too, not realizing what the word reparations even means, right?
Right. And then he also clarified what reparations was, meaning the repairing of and the paying back of. One thing about it, America economy may be trashed, but you're still getting paid. You might not be getting paid as much as you want, but you're still getting paid for a service. So there's nothing to repair.
Right. There's nothing to repair. And a lot of times you sign contracts agreeing to be paid that amount anyway, right? You know, versus when we were going through slavery, we didn't sign no contract to be in slavery. We didn't want to be there, right? We had no choice. We couldn't negotiate before we got hired on the plantation. None of that, right? But
for most black people in America, this was a time when you lived and died as a slave. And so that's what reparations is about. And so I hear what you're saying, but I think that's a completely separate conversation that needs to be had about the now. Because if you are not careful, what you then do is you combine everybody's suffering into the same bowl, and you make it seem like all injustices have the same weighting, and they don't. Just like crimes, you know, theft isn't the same as murder. We don't try them the same way. And as much as there is a white person who's suffering today, I feel for anybody who's suffering because I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to suffer. I didn't come from a wealthy family. We struggled when I was growing up. But I also understand that there are levels of that suffering, you know? And so sometimes white people, it does block a white person because you go, white privilege. And the person goes, I'm poor and I'm white. Where's the privilege? You know, white people are like, I wish I could activate my white privilege. I wish I could do it right now. White privilege, give me something. I get that. I get that. Trust me, I get it. It is hard to accept that you have benefits because of the color of your skin if you cannot see the benefits that you have. But the thing I try to explain to a person is think of it more like golf. Don't think of it as privilege, then think of it like a handicap, right? In golf, they acknowledge that you are in a position where you need so many advantages to be competitive in the game, right? So what they say is you have a handicap of 15, so that means like you're going to be hitting from this tee and you get more chances to get the ball in because we understand the position you're in. And if you're a black person in America, from slavery, from day one, the number of injustices that have held black people back in America amount to an insurmountable, like you look at black people's freedom, you look at black people's land, just land.
I like the fact that he had to use that white sport of golf because, you know, a lot of white people will play dumb like they don't understand what you're trying to say. So sometimes you got to talk the way they talk, and you have to put it in terminology that they can understand, that they might think that you don't understand. Because clearly the person that asked the question in the first place, you could tell by the way he worded the question that he was just trying him on pretty much what he would say, and if he would say something ignorant on live TV. Because, you know, a lot of people take comedians as being retards, right? Well, I'll use better language. They'll take comedians as being ignorant or simple, right? Not knowing that a lot of these people that are on the airways, they're intelligent people.
Not
Right?
only that, black people in general, I think we all have a response to if we were ever faced with a question like that, right? Some of us might get out of character, but nonetheless, we all have valid points on how to make exactly the same point that he's making. Another thing, because you pointed out the golf thing, right? Another thing I would say, I feel like it was a funny uh, jab at white America when he brought up the golf thing, man, because white people know, man, y'all don't want no black people on no golf course too. It was kind of like a double entendre in a sense, man, because he's explaining you know, the situation in the difference between plights, and he's also bringing up a sport that you guys know that y'all don't even know. It takes us to jump through hoops to get on the golf course, and then when we get on the golf course, we get harassed and stuff like that as well. You know, of course, if you're not, unless you're Stephen Curry or somebody like that, but nonetheless, right? I think that was a great analogy to pull. Become
Land alone, the amount of wealth you can acquire over time if you own land is exponential because you have the land, you have the fact that you can borrow based on the land, you have the fact that you can use the money that you have borrowed to grow more wealth, you can use it to grow your family's wealth. Just taking that away from black people alone is crippling them. And so you combine that with slavery, and then you look at Jim Crow laws. You didn't let black people in America live in the areas that they wanted to live in. They couldn't get loans from the banks that they wanted to get loans from. And then on top of that, when they started getting the loans from American banks were found to be giving them higher interest rates when in fact they were the same risk as many of the other races that they were giving loans to. So when you combine all of those things, I think it's safe to say that black Americans have a conversation that they need to be having with the United States. Doesn't involve me, doesn't involve white people, it's like, yo.
I was just, when I was at my job and I was talking to these two Jakes, man, these two other black brothers that were security at the job that I was working at, and we were talking about fair shakes, and you know, our people are so far gone to where, you know, we don't even know history for real. They said, yeah, man, you know, it's just crazy that they trying to replace us as a minority and give all the money to all these other nations. And he said, yeah, man, they didn't even give us our 10 acres. I said, it was 40 acres, actually. I said, it was 40 acres. And I said, the crazy part is, man, you talk to the average white person in America, their family got more than 135 acres to their name. And they're the first ones to get all messed up and all emotional when we talk about reparations. And the thing is, you know, black people would be happy if you just gave us 5 of those acres. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and and that is really what's owed to us is land that we worked, that we built. And,
Right.
and so that right there is another mighty point that he made, because we understand that this generational wealth that is inside uh, of these other nations is lies within the land.
Not only that, man, that because it's a great point, like you just mentioned. But man, land is like he just eloquently put, is more valuable than even the money that you would get from reparations, because with land you can then delegate. If you need money, you can sell parts of your land, right? You know, but not only that, you don't even need money when you have land, because now you got a place to harvest your food, like animals and vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. You can afford to get your own water, with if you got running water like a well or something like that, right?
And you know how many Edomites I work with, and none of them are afraid of the government shutting down. You know why? Because all of them got 5+ acres, and they all got chickens. They all got 1 or 2 cows. They got ponds on their land. I'm talking about even the rednecks.
I mean, you know, the crazy thing is, man, you know, to your point, man, Edomites, man, are so lost out here, is the fact that they think that everybody, like you said, kind of has a fair shake, right? And they, in their mind, they thinking, yeah, my family got X amount of acres, and we own this company X, Y, and Z. In their mind, right? They think that everybody else is the same way. They think that everybody else has that was given 70 to 100K when they graduated college from their parents. They think that everybody's family owns over 40 acres of land. They actually think, when they look at a black person, they think we got the same thing, and they fail to realize what he's pointing out is that we were handicapped from the jump, because we're coming out of slavery. We don't have no communities to live in. We don't got no house. We don't have no land, no nothing, right? And we got to make something of ourselves, and that's a big jump. That's a big gap to even to get to, you know, even an even playing field, right? We're still making that up, but in these Edomites' mind, they think that we've already caught up to that, because they see people
Yeah.
like
Not
LeBron
even
James and Stephen Curry and stuff like that.
not even just work ethic wise, right? Because I'll say work ethic wise, we could get a job, you know what I'm saying, and we could have the money and the means to get what some of these other nations have. But the thing about it is, our skin color stops a lot, right? That same land that you went in, you was able to talk to the landlord, or you was able to talk to the owner, and you was able to buy that land from that person. They're gonna charge me probably double what they charged you, or they might not even sell it to me. It might be other people on the waiting list, and they might give it to a white person just because they're white and they kind of see themselves in that person. And that's the thing, right? When it comes down to it, it don't matter how much money, it don't matter how hard you work. There's no fair shake. It's no fair shake, because the power is in the people that won. And
And you see people like, if you watch Yellowstone, a lot of white people got the same mindset that John Dutton had, right? He got all of that land, right? All of that land. And the one thing that he's worried about in every single episode is what he told his son Casey. Don't let him have none of it. Not a GD inch, right? So you get all that land, right? There's only but so much land on this planet that we live on, right? And you don't even want to give up an inch of it to anybody, right? You know, you kind of, once all the land's taken, it's that's that, you know. But kind of go ahead.
I was gonna say too, and just like the hypocrisy of this country, right? The hypocrisy of even of the people that live in it. I always refer back to the Pledge of Allegiance when it says one nation under God, right? But in the laws of God, just like you made in the brother made the point in the video, we sit up here, black people weren't allowed to get certain loans, and then when they were charged double, triple the interest that the same risk factors that other races had. And in the Bible, I want to say there's Deuteronomy 23:19, where it talks about, hey, you shouldn't lend to your brother upon usury. Now we know who the laws were made for and given to. We get that. But for the sake of just saying how they like we're talking about the mind of the oppressor, they think that it's all inclusive. Well, when you go to the principles that your country is built off on, you see how far-fetched it is from actually sticking to the code, you know? And this is why it's important for people who don't understand the difference between having a conversation about reparations as opposed to how workers are treated in America in today's time. This will be a good video to watch. And not talking about the brother in the suit, but just the brothers giving an example about, you know, how contradictory it is in society to make the connections that reparations shouldn't matter anymore because, you know, we're all in the same field today, when those people who are going through those same struggles today, going back to their history, their foremothers and fathers, they were in a bigger stronghold. And we did a video, and I'll be ended after this, did a video, last week before, where we talked about how you could, it's a thing called the victim mentality, and people try to shun that, but it's a real thing where curses or things that happen to family members can be passed down from generation to generation. So no, Bobby Lee didn't have me in the Georgia heat picking cotton from sun up to sundown. However, he probably had my great grandfather doing that, you know, and some of the trauma that he experienced, he passed it down to his children and so on and so forth. That may be something that could affect me today, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing, man. And like you said at the beginning of the video, as a white American, right, you might not be able to put your mind into those shoes, right? But those things actually do count. You do have to take those things into consideration. I know you can't feel it. You can't really know it. You can't understand it, but those things, you know, they do count, and other people that go through them can, right? You know, that's kind of like somebody saying, downplaying depression that's never really went through any depression before, right? Or downplaying migraines because you ain't never had a severe migraine in your life, right? You know, only really the person that's going through it can really understand the significance of what they're going through, right? And for the longest time, man, Esau, you've been living it up, man. You don't know nothing but you know, good times and getting whatever you want. You're that spoiled child, right? That's finally being told no, right? In all aspects of life, whether that be in the American economy or just the American government and the military wise, or, you know, just how the world is seeing you. America is finally getting told no, and they're not liking it, right? I'm gonna finish out this video though.
American government, meet the black people. That's it. Have that conversation.
That was that. And I find it funny, man, how, you know, he's from the UK. I find it funny how other nations can look at what we got going on, you know what I'm saying, and they can call a spade a spade. You know, I thought that was funny too. But if you can give me the book of Obadiah, right? And reshare that for me.
Funny thing too, before the brother read this, I want to say, man, I was doing some reading, and you know, a lot of stuff, when you read it the first time, you don't really catch it until like the second, maybe third, 14th, 15th time you read it. But I was reading Deuteronomy 15 today, and what I started at the top is talking about the year of the Lord's release. And I never really paid attention to how that lines up with some of our, I guess you could say, credit transactions today. Like if you have credit, right, certain reports, collections, whatever that you have on your credit, they don't drop off till after 7 years, you know? And I just thought about it. It's called the Lord's release. And it's one of those things, like when you look at the credit system today, it's set up just like that. And that again goes to the point of how a country that professes themselves to be under the rulership of God, yet don't follow it much, you know?
Man, it's just like the Christian church, man. They pick and choose what they want to follow, what they want to use to govern themselves, and you know, they see something they don't like and they turn a blind eye to it. You know, it's the old fashioned, the laws are done away with, but you still got to pay these tithes type of concept. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, man, let's get into it real quick, man. Let's talk about the caucasity of the heathen, especially Edom. And we'll get out you guys' hair for tonight. Start at Obadiah. If you can read verse 1 through 3.
Book of Obadiah, chapter 1, and verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom.
Concerning Edom, who we realize is the Edomites, or the so-called white man today, right? Keep reading.
We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle.
Come on, keep reading.
Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised.
Everybody hates you. Keep reading.
The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee.
The pride of thine heart hath this. Man, Esau is so prideful, right? He deceives his own self into thinking that what he's going through right now is equivalent to the plight of the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He has deceived himself into thinking that the suffering that he's doing is worse than the suffering that he's caused amongst all the nations, not just us, everybody that he's touched, right? That's how delusional he has become. Keep reading.
The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
Come on, man. And he's been saying that for a long time, and a lot of people are now getting on program to answer that question, right? And they're saying, I'll do it. I can do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of those old time TV shows or movies where somebody has to fight to be the next guy, that guy, right? And a lot of people, just start throwing their hands up, might as well give it a shot. You know what I'm saying? And that's what other nations are doing right now, right? And as we can see, a brother from the UK can look and see the caucasity of our enemy, right? If you go down to verse number 8 for me.
Verse 8. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau?
Right, man, because their understanding is limited, right? We can see it in that video, right? That the understanding of Esau is finished, right? Don't even know what the word reparations mean, and don't even know what type of conversation is at hand in that video, right? He says that he was going to destroy the wise men out of Edom, because once upon a time, believe it or not, man, people used to look at as a white man as if it's white is right, right? Whatever he says is golden, right? It was a time where you couldn't win an argument without citing a white man's name, right? Or citing a source that was created by a white man, or if it said .gov at the end, right? It was a time where people consider white people or Edomites to be wise, right? He said he's going to destroy that. And what he really means is, man, they never really was wise, right? But what he really is, he's saying that, man, everybody is going to see just how idiotic you have been in your own understanding this whole time. He said he's going to destroy the understanding out of Mount Esau, right? The understanding that the young man said in the video, right? Anybody with eyes and ears could clearly see that his question was flawed. But he, on a world stage, on national television, right, his understanding was destroyed, right? And I hope he feels embarrassed for asking that.
Well, it's just kind of like when you were back in grade school and the teacher set up a field trip and she gave everybody parent slips, but to get the parent slip for the field trip, you had to, you had to have, let's say, read 5 books for the year. And this was the end of the year field trip. And you didn't read 5 books for the year. And you go back and you tell your parents how sad you are that you can't go on the field trip. Your parents make a big deal about it and say, I don't think that was right for you as a parent to not let all the kids go on the field trip. When your kid knows good and well they didn't do their best and they didn't read the books they were supposed to read to get on the field trip, right? So they want to equate themselves with everybody. And now the principal gets involved and nobody goes on the field trip, right? I say that to say, you know, that's kind of how they're looking at this. They're looking at it as, yeah, they may have earned reparations, but it's 2024. If I can't get any money either, then why would they get it? America, I want money from America too. And
it
now,
doesn't make sense how they can be the only ones to get money, free money from America, not realizing it's not free money. It's the fact that we worked our behinds off and we didn't get paid, right?
That hospital that you go to when you're sick, you didn't build that. These monumental statues and buildings that you guys spend hundreds of dollars and go on vacation and take pictures and go and see, y'all didn't build the White House. Y'all didn't build none of that. When you're looking at all this land that fruit and vegetables is still growing up off of today, that wasn't land that y'all tilled and harvested from, right? When you look at the knowledge of how to take care of farm animals, y'all didn't learn that from y'allself, right? So all the things that make your life what your life is, right? You guys literally stole that. You didn't pay anybody for their ideas. You didn't pay anybody for their inventions. You didn't pay anybody for their time. And that's just what it is. Now you got to just be a good student and say, yeah, I didn't earn it. They earned it. I hate the fact that I don't get to go. I hate the fact that I don't get what they get, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man.
Even thinking about the even thinking about the arguments that they make against us, you know, when they say, well, y'all didn't go through none of that. And just like the brother said, a lot of the stuff that you all have today, you didn't put the work in to build that either, you know. But you got to start, you know, going directly for people. Like some people got land that they inherited. Well, if you inherited that land, I know for a fact slaves used to work on this land. So matter of fact, the land that's been so well kept over these hundreds of thousands of years that's been here, you know, you need to give a portion of that land to the people who actually maintained it. You were just the taskmaster. You didn't come out here and cut the yard, you know, to the ground. You didn't come out here and put in the work on that. Now you got your nice house sitting on 40 acres, you know, and you got rivers and waters. And like the brother said, all these, what do you call them? What do you call them? Like stuff that accessories. You got all these accessories, man. Yeah.
Amenities.
Yeah, amenities, everything that you have included, man. You know, you didn't get none of that stuff yourself. Just like these corporations and major businesses, a lot of you all are the way you are today, you know, in as far as that's like financial capital and capacity, only being that you probably enslaved or, you know, had so-called Black Americans and Hispanics work for you for very cheap labor and ran them to the ground to help build your business up. So it's all a circle. So when people say, well, reparations don't matter, well, then we got to start questioning everything else. You know, if you feel like the descendants of those people shouldn't get reparations, well, I feel like all these businesses and corporations shall be shut down because a lot of them were built on the enslavement, rape, robbing, murder of our people.
Right.
Oh, man, you know the crazy part is,
and be like, hey, would you go if your job didn't give you a check for a whole year and expected you to come in for your regular 9 to 5, would you do it or would you find a new job? And okay, also, by the way, when you find a new job, are you going to take your job to court for not paying you every day that you came in? And that's all we're saying at the end of the day, because you'd rather the government pay us than we do extensive research to find out what family goes back to what plantation, and we go to that family and say, you owe me. So how about you just be quiet and let the government pay us, and you get to keep your money regardless. You get to keep your land regardless.
Yeah,
you
man.
Don't want to make it personal.
It's crazy, man, because you know, when you have these conversations and you give them an answer to what they've been looking for, why they can't get reparations too, a lot of times you bring up these points and they're on hush mode. You bring up the fact that we ain't got land, X, Y, and Z. They're on hush mode and they don't have a response because deep down inside they know their family got some money or their family got some land or their family owns something, right? And they at that point it's like, yeah, I guess y'all right. I didn't realize y'all didn't have none of that, right? And then it's also like, yeah, let me shut up because I'm not gonna be offering none of my land up anyway, right? But those are two mighty points. And man, I just seen a show yesterday where these women that used to work for Nickelodeon, right? They got hired on, and they had to share a salary, and they found out that that was illegal, and they got their lawyers involved, and they sued, and they got reparations, right? So just like the brother was saying, man, it's something that you guys would be looking to do as well. You know what I'm saying? Um, if you could read verse 13, I got two more verses, man, and then I'm through, right? If you could read verse 13 for me.
Verse 13. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity.
And that's all they're trying to do, man. From the beginning of time, all they've been trying to do is lay their hands on our substance, man. Right? They've done it in the past, and they're still looking to do it now, right? When it comes to those reparations, which is supposed to be our substance, right? They still want to lay hands on that, right? You know, and so that's just wild in itself, you know. Last verse I got is verse. You got something to say, brother Yeshaya?
Oh wait, you go ahead.
The last verse I got is verse number 17.
Verse 17. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions.
Although we got to fight tooth and nail for what we deserve, you know, even for the idea of the concept of reparations, you know, there is going to be a day that we're all looking to where we're going to possess our possessions, right? I know we always talk about possessing our possessors, but we're also going to possess our possessions again as well, right? All that land that John Dutton don't want to give up, he's going to have to give it to whatever. What's that Native American guy's name? Waters or something like that. He's going to have to give it up.
Choose something.
You know what I'm saying? He's going to have to give that land up. He's going to have to give these riches and these buildings up. All of that has to, you know, be restored, because in our law, we see that not only are we supposed to restore what we were that was taken, but 4 times that. You know what I'm saying? Or I think 4 times was Zacchaeus. I think in the law it says double. Right. And so, you know, there is going to be a day where all of that comes to pass. And so just look forward to that day, and just know that the video that I shared today, right? The video that I shared today, you know what I'm saying? It's to shed light on the fact that the understanding of Esau is coming to nothing. The brother said, what does verse 18 talk about? If you could read verse 18 real quick.
Verse 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble.
So it's talking about the house of Jacob, right? When it talks about the house of Jacob and the house of Joseph, it's just talking about the Israelites, right? It says that we're going to be a flame, right? And it says the house of Esau, who we recognize as a so-called white man, right? He's going to be for stubble, meaning nothing, right? As a flame, it's going to be us that the Most High uses to devour our enemies. One of the key enemies being Esau, right? Leaving him, you know, as stubble. Keep reading.
And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it.
Come on, man. There's not going to be any remaining of the house of Esau. Some make the argument that it's talking about, you know, the actual descendants of Esau. Some say that it's just talking about the possessions that Esau has, right? Either way, right? You know, that which belongs to Esau will be no more. It won't be his. It will be in our possession. But
You can go to Ezekiel 25:14 to reference what the brother was saying, as far as just like us being the I guess the ones who the Lord would use to destroy the mount of Esau. But I was gonna say this and close on this. Right, the brother brought out in verse 17, the only way we can be able to get the holiness and their possessions is if we first possess our vessels, you know, just moving with wisdom in these times, you know, understanding that in the government, everything is a long process. The stuff that really matters takes forever, and the stuff that doesn't matter takes but a second. Like the conversations about banning TikTok by the end of the year in the United States. TikTok, a social media app that many have used since the year of 2020 when the pandemic happened to change their life around. You know, a lot of people got rich off of it. A lot of people quit their jobs to become social media influencers, and that's one of the apps that they use. And the whole thing is, well, Chinese government information, whatever. But not to get lost in the woodworks of that, all I'm saying is ultimately that it's going to take time for us to get these things, you know. And I'll always say, man, things seem hard now, things seem unfair now, but we got a reward to look forward to. And I honestly, man, I can wait for that day because I'm not necessarily someone to say I desire it, but I can't wait for that day.
Come on, man. Me too. Yo está bien. Well, that's all I got. Any brothers got anything else? Come on, man. It's a short Think About It Thursday, man. Hope you guys were edified. Hope you guys were encouraged, man. Start seeing the understanding of Esau be dismantled on the earth nowadays, right? And more of it to come. You're gonna start seeing him expose himself more and more, right? But without further ado, man, we're the hopeful elect, giving all honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We do so by way of his son, who is an instrument of salvation for the nation, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? Who is coming back to save his people, to restore back what belongs to us, to give us our proper reparations, right? He also said, if you're not helping to gather his people, you're helping to scatter his people, man. So make your calling and election sure. Study hard, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. This has been another Think About It Thursday, and we say shalom.